Listen, the moment modern life shuts off, no warning, no countdown, just dead silence, you discover something uncomfortable about value. Everything you thought mattered stops mattering instantly. Your expensive gadgets? Dead weight. Your Wi-Fi router? A plastic brick. The world shrinks into something primal and honest, and suddenly the only things that matter are the things that keep you alive one more hour. And here's the part people never want to admit. The 5 items that become priceless aren't the fancy tactical tools influencers wave around. They're the things nobody brags about because they're too ordinary, right up until the moment they become the difference between control and chaos. The first one usually surprises people. Water containers. Not water, containers. Because when taps run dry or the pressure drops and the pipes start coughing air, the only water you'll have is whatever you can find, carry, or store. And unless you're planning to cup it in your hands like a cartoon caveman, you need something that won't leak, crack, or contaminate what's inside. The science is simple. Water picks up bacteria, microplastics, and chemical residues from whatever it touches, so the container becomes as important as the water itself. A good sealed container turns a puddle, a stream, or a rain catch into a real survival asset instead of a gamble. Without one, you'll watch water drip through your fingers while dehydration punches you in the kidneys. Funny how a plastic jug suddenly becomes more valuable than a smartphone. The second item that skyrockets in value is fire starters. Not the fancy magnesium bricks people only practice with when they're bored, but anything reliable that makes flame on demand. Lighters, strike-anywhere matches, even a ferro rod if you actually know how to use it. Fire isn't just warmth. It's morale, purification, signaling, cooking, and even psychological dominance. In total darkness, the human brain becomes desperate for a sensory anchor, and fire provides one. From a biological standpoint, we're wired to respond to flame as safety and structure. Without the ability to create fire whenever you need it, you're stuck depending on luck, friction, or hope, all of which are terrible survival partners. This section is based on practical field survival experience, rather than formal academic sources. The third priceless item is something almost comically mundane, a cutting tool that actually holds an edge. When society stops functioning, cutting things becomes your new full-time job. Rope, fabric, wood, packaging, food, medical improvisation, you name it. The physics behind why this matters is simple. A sharp edge concentrates force into a tiny area, multiplying the effectiveness of every motion you make. A dull blade spreads that force, wasting energy and increasing your risk of injury. People always underestimate how many injuries happen not from danger, but from fatigue and sloppy edges. A reliable blade becomes your universal key, your multi-tool, and your extension of intent. Without it, everything is slower, heavier, clumsier, and more dangerous. Fourth, and this is the one nobody sees coming, trash bags. Not the flimsy ones that rip when you look at them wrong, but heavy-duty bags that can carry weight, block water, or create insulation. In a blackout world, trash bags become shelters, ponchos, ground covers, rain catches, privacy curtains, improvised toilets, gear protectors, and even flotation aids if you trap enough air inside. They're pure physics, thin plastic with enormous surface area and flexibility. They trap heat, block wind, repel water, and reduce exposure better than most improvised materials. You don't think about trash bags until you're cold, soaked, or trying to keep gear dry, and then you realize you'd trade almost anything for one. This section is based on practical field survival experience rather than formal academic sources. But the fifth item is the one that becomes truly priceless, and not for the reason people assume. A functioning light source you can control. Not bright enough to reveal you to every pair of desperate eyes in the dark, just enough to navigate safely. When the grid dies, darkness becomes a physical force. Humans aren't designed for it. Our eyes panic, our brain amplifies threats, and depth perception collapses. You need a light that's diffused, dimmable, and doesn't scream your location. Hard science backs this one. Your pupils respond to contrast far more dramatically than brightness. A controlled light keeps your world stable without announcing you like a human lighthouse. In the absence of electricity, light becomes civilization in miniature, a tiny bubble of order floating in the blackout. Now here's the truth running underneath all 5 items. Every one of them represents control. Control over water, over fire, over your environment, over your sensory stability. When modern life stops, the world doesn't turn into a movie. It turns into a contest of who can maintain the most control with the least waste. The things that rise in value aren't glamorous because survival isn't glamorous. It's practical, systematic, and built on physics and psychology more than brute strength. The people who thrive aren't the ones with the most gear or the coolest tools. They're the ones who know why these items matter. Because once the lights go out, value stops being about price and becomes about consequence. A water jug becomes time. A fire starter becomes heat. A blade becomes efficiency. A trash bag becomes protection. And a light becomes sanity. That's why these 5 ordinary items transform into priceless assets the exact moment modern life ends, not because they're rare, but because they become irreplaceable.